This is Joshua, MVA Studio, Minneapolis College of Art and Design behind me. Today's video, I want to talk a little bit about idiosyncrasies. I think there is a tendency to encourage students to go nuts while they're in school. This weird caveat that in the real world that doesn't fly. That weird idiosyncratic processes don't fly. So they do this, and then essentially we sort of tell them like, okay, now you have to go and get a real normal boring job, and then once or twice a year, why don't you go and see a lecture by the designer who did not have their weird idiosyncratic parts of them crushed. I see work that's got an obvious level of passion in it, and no one saying, you can continue to do this, you can continue to run down this avenue, provided you understand that if you start playing a certain game, you don't get to do the idiosyncratic stuff that makes you you. And if you embrace the stuff that makes you you, then you're opting out of a certain game. Namely, your sort of like corporate design gig, your traditional ad agency, your traditional branding focused design studio. And that those things aren't bad, but nobody prepares you for, okay, if you don't do that, what are you going to do instead? Maybe it's frustrating and weird. And it's like I was thinking about, I was reading an interview with David Rudnick the other day. And he was talking about that if you look at one of his pieces and you think you see Helvetica in it, you're wrong. That he designs every single typeface. That it's important to him that top to bottom, the whole thing is his work. Now, that's a very labor-intensive way of working, and it's peculiar to him, but I have a lot of respect for that because he knows what he needs to value the work. And I think it's funny because, like, to me, like, I can't relate to that. I need fonts because it is too much friction, the idea that I would need to make fonts. But then what's the thing that I need? The thing that I need is this weird mystery to be unfolding before me, but it needs to be driven by specific steps. And I think one of the things that's going to be maybe interesting now that through the MVA, I'm embracing this idea that this process stuff is like what I'm obsessed with. I think if there's any chance of anybody knowing who I am, because like prior to this, if anybody knew who I am, it's because they bought New Skateboard Graphics or they bought Function, Restraint, and Subversion and Typography, but they saw my name on something with a fairly big print run that could be in their library or whatever. But I don't think anybody like outside of a handful of people has like really known my design work. And I think at this point, if anybody knows who I am, it's gonna be because of the process thing. And not that the process is so novel or so interesting, just the obsession with the process, the obsession with knowing exactly what method I'm going to use at any given time, and this weird, bizarre thing of deciding that there's a whole bunch of methods and that the client picks it, but then I tell them whether it's going to work or not. But I want to see more of that idiosyncratic stuff. It's like, think back to like, at any given time, things can change so dramatically. Like, there was a time where it was really common to make a font just to make a specific poster. Like that was like the CalArts thing for a while. Now that seems very strange, because now everybody makes the same like geometric sans or whatever to make basically the same poster. But eventually there's going to be this weird moment, the moment they gave birth to stuff, like the moment they gave birth to not necessarily Ed Fella, but Ed Fella becoming famous, the moment they gave birth to the work of Tomato or Martin Vinesky or David Carson, there will be like another moment like that. It's probably already happening because we do have like David Rudnick or Hassan Rahim or whoever else that's doing something of their own making. But to do that requires you to be you. That's the thing the world needs a lot more of. The fact that matters is like, graphic designers are kind of dime a dozen. Supposedly it's hard to find them. I'm not sure I believe that. I have a feeling though that if I were trying to hire a graphic designer, I probably would have a hard time, because I think I'd have a hard time finding the person that has that idiosyncratic edge still in them, and not, I don't mean like an academic one. I don't mean a weirdo for the sake of being a weirdo. I mean the person that does them. The person whose typography is influenced by what they like. The person who never stopped using hobo because they rock with hobo. And I think if you're a student, or if you're a designer who's frustrated, things don't feel right, think back to projects where either the output, you just loved it, or the process, you loved it. Like, I don't think you can go wrong by looking at the work in the frame of what felt right. Because if you find the things that felt right, you do them enough, eventually they might look right. Or maybe they will never look right, but they'll be the honest and authentic output of a process that's right for you. Because I think the big thing is, like, in our work, I used to love doing letterpress stuff because I would do it with almost no concept. I liked not having a concept. I liked doing type-only stuff because I liked not having a concept. For a long time, I didn't get as much work done as I could have because I needed a concept and I couldn't always come up with one. One of the strange things that came out of figuring out a process that made me really consistent with concepts was also the realization that it's the feeling of the process that actually matters the most to me, and having a smart concept is really not necessary. And in terms of my art practice, and I hate the term practice, my art activities, there's no concepts whatsoever, and now I'm productive. So that's a long kind of rambling thing, but I think the basic gist of it is, it's your weird instincts that make you you and make you special, and the world tries too hard to hammer them out of you, but then tells you to go to, say, the Walker once a year and pay $80 to watch lectures by a bunch of people who the only difference between them and you is they didn't go work in-house somewhere and have the magic hammered out of them by versioning out graphics for Instagram. All right, thanks a lot for watching.